In the Negev desert of southern Israel, there is a facility that officially does not exist. It has no entry in the public budget, no debate in parliament, no tours, no press conferences, no IAEA inspectors. It has never been inspected by any international nuclear authority in its 68 years of operation. Israel will not confirm it is there. Israel will not deny it either. 20 kilometers from that facility sits a city called Dimona. Population, 40,000. Ordinary families, ordinary apartment buildings, ordinary lives. The residents of Dimona have always been told they live in the most protected city in Israel, ringed by the most sophisticated missile defense systems on Earth, because of what sits just to the southeast. On the night of March 21st, 2026, an Iranian ballistic missile sliced through all of that protection and detonated in the middle of a residential block. It was the first time in the 68-year history of that facility that a foreign missile had breached the air defenses surrounding it. And in the same 24 hours, Iran launched missiles toward a joint US-UK military base 4,000 kilometers away, a base previously considered well beyond the reach of any Iranian weapon. 2 launches, 2 firsts, 1 day. The question is not whether this happened. It did. The question is what it means, and where a conflict that began as a military campaign to eliminate a nuclear program has now arrived. To understand what March 21st represents, you need to understand the architecture of everything that came before it. This conflict did not begin on February 28, 2026. It began earlier, in the slow collapse of every diplomatic mechanism that might have prevented it. As recently as February 6, 2026, the United States and Iran were holding indirect nuclear negotiations in Geneva, brokered by Oman. A second round followed on February 17th. A third was confirmed on February 22nd. Oman's foreign minister described what he called a positive push. Progress, he said, was real. 22 days later, the United States and Israel launched a joint military campaign. On February 28, 2026, nearly 900 strikes hit Iran in 12 hours. The opening salvo killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and dozens of Iranian officials. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, was named successor. The operation was codenamed Epic Fury by the United States and Roaring Lion by Israel. The stated objectives: to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons, to destroy its long-range ballistic missile program, and, depending on which official you listen to induce regime change. Iran's response was immediate and wide. Missiles and drones struck U.S. military bases in Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the United Arab Emirates. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply travels, was placed under Iranian restriction. Global oil prices surged, regional airspace closed, hundreds of thousands of travelers were stranded. By March 5th, Iran had fired more than 500 ballistic and naval missiles and nearly 2,000 drones. By March 23rd, U.S. CENTCOM had struck more than 7,000 targets inside Iran. More than 1,500 people had been killed on the Iranian side, including at least 200 children, according to Iranian state media. But here is the critical context. For the first 3 weeks of this war, despite Iran's ability to strike targets across the region, Israel's multi-layered air defense system, Arrow 3, Arrow 2, David Sling, Iron Dome, had intercepted approximately 92% of incoming projectiles. The architecture of that protection was, in Israeli military thinking, essentially impenetrable around the most sensitive location in the country, the the Negev Desert, where the Shimon Peres Negev Nuclear Research Center sits approximately 13 kilometers southeast of the city of Dimona. Dimona is 20 kilometers west of the reactor. Iran is 35 kilometers north. Both cities were struck on the night of March 21st. The question that the world was not prepared for, that even residents of Dimona were not prepared for, is how that protection failed. Let us start with what was being protected, because the silence around Dimona is itself a fact. Construction of the Negev Nuclear Research Center began in 1958, in secret, with French assistance provided under the Protocol of Sèvres agreements. French customs officials were told that the reactor components, including the reactor tank, were parts of a desalination plant bound for Latin America. The facility became operational between 1962 and 1964. By 1966, full-scale production of nuclear warheads is believed to have commenced. By 1967, the Israel Defense Forces are believed to have possessed at least 13 operational nuclear warheads, enough to change the strategic calculus of the entire region. In 1986, a former Dimona technician named Mordecai Vanunu fled to London and gave the Sunday Times a detailed account of what he had seen inside. He described an underground reprocessing facility. He described the separate buildings and their purposes. He provided photographs. The response from Israel was immediate. A Mossad agent, posing under a false identity, lured Vanunu to Rome. He was seized, returned to Israel on a freighter, and imprisoned for 18 years for treason and espionage. Today, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute estimates that Israel possesses approximately 90 nuclear warheads, deliverable by aircraft and by Jericho series ballistic missiles, with a maximum estimated range of 4,000 kilometers. Israel has never signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The IAEA has never inspected Dimona. The reactor, which the IAEA estimates operated at 26 megawatts thermal, is believed to have been capable of producing 9 to 10 kilograms of weapons-grade plutonium per year from 1965 onwards. This is the facility that Iranian missiles targeted on March 21st. Earlier on March 21st, Iran's Natanz nuclear enrichment complex was struck in what Tehran described as a U.S. attack. The U.S. declined to comment. The IDF said it was unaware of the operation. Within hours, Iranian state television announced that retaliation was incoming, and that the target was Dimona. The missiles that hit Dimona and Iran were conventional ballistic missiles, with warheads carrying hundreds of kilograms of explosive material. They were not, by any IDF account, unusual weapons. Israeli air defense systems were activated. Interceptors were launched. They failed. In both Dimona and Iran, Israel's fire service said interceptors were launched that failed to hit the threats, resulting in 2 direct hits by ballistic missiles. In Dimona, 3 separate impact sites were identified. One 3-story building collapsed. Several fires broke out. The damage stretched across multiple residential blocks. In Iran, at least 10 apartment buildings sustained damage. 3 were described as badly damaged and in danger of collapsing. The total wounded across both cities reached at least 180, including 36 people who remained hospitalized the following day, among them 19 children. The reactor sits 13 kilometers southeast of the city. The IAEA confirmed it detected no abnormal radiation levels and received no reports of damage to the facility itself. Its Director General urged maximum military restraint in the vicinity of nuclear facilities. But the reactor was not the point, or at least not entirely. Iran's parliament speaker wrote publicly, "If the Israeli regime is unable to intercept missiles in the heavily protected Dimona area, It is, operationally, a sign of entering a new phase of the battle. He was not claiming a military victory. He was demonstrating a capability. The symmetry was intentional. One nuclear site struck, one nuclear city targeted in response, both in a single day, for the first time in the history of the modern Middle East. On the same day, in an event that received less immediate attention than the Dimona strikes, Iran attempted something that its own foreign minister had publicly stated 3 days earlier was impossible. On March 8, 2026, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told NBC, "We have intentionally limited ourselves to below 2,000 kilometers of range because we do not want to be felt as a threat by anybody else in the world." On March 20, 2026, Iran launched 2 ballistic missiles toward Diego Garcia, a joint US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean. Diego Garcia is approximately 4,000 kilometers from Iran. Neither missile struck the base. One reportedly failed mid-flight. A US warship fired an interceptor at the other. But the launch demonstrated that Iran either already possesses or has improvised a missile capability reaching twice the publicly stated limit. Justin Bronk, a senior research fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, assessed that the attempt may have used Iran's Simorgh space launch rocket, which could offer greater range as a ballistic missile, though at reduced accuracy. The Defense Intelligence Agency had estimated in 2025 that Iran could develop a militarily viable ICBM by 2035, if it chose to. Israel's chief of staff chose the day after the Diego Garcia launch to say this: "These missiles were not intended to hit Israel. Their range reaches the capitals of Europe. Berlin, Paris, and Rome are all within direct threat range." Whether that assessment is precise or deliberately designed to draw European nations into the conflict is a separate analytical question. What is not disputed, for the first time in this war, Iran targeted infrastructure 4,000 kilometers away and confirmed, through the attempt itself, that the self-imposed 2,000-kilometer ceiling no longer applies. There is a principle in nuclear deterrence theory called the stability-instability paradox. The basic idea is this: when two adversaries both have nuclear weapons, the mutual threat of total annihilation makes large wars less likely, but makes small conflicts more probable, because each side believes the other will not risk crossing the nuclear threshold over a limited exchange. What March 21st introduced is a challenge to that calculus. Iran does not possess nuclear weapons, at least not verified ones. Israel possesses approximately 90 warheads and will neither confirm nor deny their existence. And yet, on March 21st, Iran explicitly targeted the city housing Israel's nuclear production facility, in explicit retaliation for a strike on its own nuclear enrichment site. The nuclear dimension of this conflict was no longer hypothetical. It was on the targeting list. The IAEA called for restraint in the vicinity of nuclear facilities. That sentence, in its careful bureaucratic precision, contains a recognition that neither the international community nor the architects of this war had fully prepared for. That a conventional war between a nuclear state and a near-nuclear state, when both sides start targeting each other's nuclear infrastructure, enters territory for which there is no tested doctrine, no established red line, and no agreed protocol. The residents of Dimona were told they lived in the most protected city in Israel. The missile that landed among their apartment buildings on March 21st was, according to the IDF, not a special or unfamiliar weapon. It was a standard ballistic missile with a conventional warhead. The interceptors launched toward it simply failed. The facility in the desert is still there. No radiation was detected. The IAEA reported no damage. The war continues. The question that remains, and that no government has yet answered in public, is this. If a conventional warhead can now reach the vicinity of a nuclear reactor, and air defenses can now fail around that reactor, what exactly is the threshold at which this stops being a military campaign and becomes something for which the word campaign is no longer adequate?